Witchy and Weird Podcast.
All right. We're back for another episode of Witchy and Weird. And today it's gonna get extra spicy because we're talking about something that I am really passionate about personally and as a professional psychic. So today we are talking about relationships, twin flames, and romance. So I do want to give a warning that because this is a spicy topic, and by spicy, I mean I'm gonna come in hard and hot with opinions. My Aries moon is already activated about this. And not just like personal opinions, but like intuitive psychic information that I have seen over numerous readings that I want to share with people and that their guides give to me and all this stuff. But because it's on the topic of relationships and romance, a lot of people like aren't ready to hear it, or they don't want to hear it, or they're triggered by hearing it. So I just want to warn you and kind of just, I guess, don't look at it as a bad thing. Like if you are triggered by it, that means you have stuff to hear about this, right? You have stuff to heal from this and to learn from this. So don't look at it as like, ooh, like Amanda called me out. I'm feeling really roasted right now. But also look at it as, okay, so this is where I know the work needs to be done. Because that's kind of a really popular and common way that we learn we need to work on things is by being in that like triggered, unsafe, uncomfortable zone, because you know the saying, our triggers are our treasures. So we've already talked about that part on the podcast. So let's get into it. I sat down to write light outline notes, and then I just wrote like a whole page of notes. Like I said, it's going to be spicy. Okay, so I wanted to start first by talking about the myth of twin flames and the one. So a lot of people don't, so let's kind of back up first and define like twin flames, soulmate, which soulmate is also known as the one. And sometimes people think twin flames are the one. So the idea, and there's many different interpretations of this, so I'm just going to go with the ones that I know, or the ones that I believe in, or that are most common. So for twin flames, the one that I've seen a lot is that you are one soul that is split into two. And so you kind of have this very like magnetic, passionate pull towards each other when you are together in a specific lifetime. And a lot of people look at that as like, because we're one soul split into two, that we're like two unwhole pieces waiting to be completed into one when we meet or get into a relationship with each other. And I've also seen twin flames, like the one that I like to believe in is that you are like, you do have a special bond. But a lot of people feel like I need to find my twin flame. They're the one. And the problem with that is that it is so magnetic and passionate that it's usually unsustainable. It's like those dangerous like elements on the periodic table where it's like, if exposed to air, it's going to burn up immediately. So don't. And so that's usually what happens to people is they feel like it's so passionate and it's so hot and it's sexy that they think like, this is it. So I need to sacrifice like going crazy, fighting all the time, feeling inadequate, having shitty timing in our lives. Like usually that's what happens with twin flames is like wrong place, right time, right place, wrong time. Your sex is really good, but you cannot have a regular relationship. Like you're arguing, you're yelling, you're getting jealous, like all of those things come up. And it's for a reason, because like your twin flame isn't really like the one. It's just that they're contractually linked to you for a specific reason, for you to learn a very, very important lesson in this lifetime. So I sometimes think of them as the tower. And I've actually had a few clients where I've pulled the tower card when they're asking me about somebody. I'm like, that's your twin flame, because it feels like this tower moment where it's like, it is really climactic and really intense and sometimes really irresistible. And you keep like coming back to each other, but it's because you're meant to learn a very big lesson in this life. So it's kind of like, the huge reward has like huge risks. So it's kind of like a test, in my opinion. This is how I feel about it. It's like a test that you're meant to overcome. Like, do you keep going back to this person and hurting yourself? Or do you, you know, like learn from the lesson? And sometimes it's a really hard lesson that we have to learn. And like I said, these are my opinions. This is what I've heard intuitively. This is what I've seen from other people. So I'm like kind of being very transparent about this. I know a lot of people don't even believe in twin flames, don't even believe in the one or soulmates. And I just want to say, like, this episode is still for you. There's going to be some other stuff at the end, because I tend to lean on not wanting to believe in those things either. And I'll explain that at the end too. Um, and so soulmates, defining what a soulmate is, a lot of people feel like there's the one. You have one soulmate, and a lot of people believe that you have multiple soulmates, and they can be platonic or romantic. And I personally believe that you have multiple. I feel like you have like a soul group, and it's like a group of souls, obviously, that you're kind of like linked with in the cosmos, and you'll incarnate over and over again with them. And that's why they can be platonic or romantic, depending upon how those relationships show up, and depending upon what like the contract that you have with them before you incarnate is. And I'll talk more about contracts later. So I feel like my personal belief is like the one, where there's like only one soulmate, only one perfect person out there for me that's going to complete me, is BS, honestly. And it's part of like the patriarchy and monogamy that society sells to us. And I feel like it's definitely part of the patriarchy, because it's an oppression tool. Like, as a female body person who grew up like identifying or figuring out what I identified with, but I was like perceived as female. I would see all over in the media, meaning like movies and TV shows, like these whirlwind romances where it's like they finally find their one, the one that can do all the things that check off all the boxes and make them feel a certain way and all this stuff. And it's like they sell you that idea. And then you grow up thinking like, that's what my life is. I need to find that person. Like, I need to focus all my attentions on finding that person. And especially if you're a female body person, because then you have that extra pressure of like, and I have to do it before I'm 35, because after that age, my eggs start to wither and die off, and I'm damaged goods, or I'm a spinster, and like all this stuff. So I really feel like it definitely is an oppression tool. And we've seen with many other cultures, like other indigenous cultures and ancient cultures, they had monogamy, they had, you know, LGBTQ people, and they didn't hate them. So I really feel like it's just part of the whole big conspiracy of the patriarchy and of monogamy, because I feel like monogamy is part of the patriarchy. And so I like to believe that soulmates are more like that they can be platonic or romantic, because it's just somebody that really gets you, that is there for you, that pushes you, that supports you, that you grow with. That isn't like this magical person that's going to solve all your problems. That's really what I believe the definition of a soulmate is. Like, it's not someone who just accepts you for who you are right now and never pushes you to change and is perfect with all of your flaws. Like, it's someone who is going to push you to change and support you and be there for you. And that can be a friend, you know? So I kind of started talking about this, but now I want to go into like the problems with these ideas of like twin flames and soulmates and the one. So the problem with like the one, that there's only one person out there for you, it's kind of like, it's similar to like twin flame, where it's like, I'm not whole and I need to find somebody that completes me, right? So you're already coming in with this like limiting belief that you're not a whole person. You're never going to be whole. You're never going to feel whole unless you find this person that magically fits your puzzle piece. And like that just is like garbage to me. Like, why would I adopt the belief that I'm not a whole person, that I'm not good enough on my own, that I need somebody else to make me feel at home, to feel loved, to feel complete? Like, those are definitely like oppressive and limiting beliefs that, again, society has put on us to make us feel like we're not good enough. And it's like, you should be able to live your entire life on your own and not have an issue with it because you love yourself and you find that peace, that love, that wholeness within you. So there's that part. And like the idea that someone is just going to accept you for who you are, no matter how many flaws you have or how many like bad, not necessarily flaws, like there's something wrong with you, but like bad habits, traumatic like behavior and things like that, that they're just going to accept you for who you are and never ask you to change, never push you to grow and be better. And they're just going to completely understand your like brand of crazy, like that type of thing that I've seen people post. Like, that's just also BS to me, because that perpetuates the idea that it's like, one, I'm not whole, but once I find that person, I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to keep growing. I don't need to keep bettering myself. I don't need to keep learning and changing and healing. This person just has to accept me for me, despite all of these like things. And yes, you do want to find a partner who does accept you for you, but that doesn't just like kind of give up in that aspect of like, I love and accept you for who you are at every phase that you are, but I'm also here to help you learn and grow. Like, I feel like it kind of stops at that point. Like, they're just going to love and accept me for who I am. And then there's no like, and they're going to help me to feel safe and supported, or to push me to grow, or to point things out to me so I can grow. So that's like my whole like beef with that. And then I'm trying to read my notes. Hold on. The other part of it is like, it kind of takes away like your free will to choose a partner, because like this idea that it's like the one, it kind of removes like your decision on who you want to choose, because, or it like puts a lot of pressure on it, because you're like, is this the right person? I don't know if it's the right person. Like, what if I make the mistake? Then I'm dooming my whole entire life, and blah, blah. And it's like, it makes so much pressure on relationships that it's like, we're not really like asking ourselves, like, do I love this person? Do I vibe with them? Like, can I see myself spending the rest of my life with them for X, Y, and Z? Like, do I actually choose this person? It's like, are they the one? Like, it's like this weird, like mystical, like omnipotent idea that it's like, I don't choose, the universe has chosen for me, and I just have to try and read the signs before the timer runs out, And it's like, as anyone who practices witchcraft, and we've talked about before in this podcast, is like, your real magic and power as a human is the power to make decisions. And so when we remove that idea that we don't get to make the decisions for ourselves, then we see like this, like I said, like all this pressure and anxiety, and you're like, you spend all of your time and attention looking for the one, instead of like healing and being learning how to be a better partner and growing and focusing on other things in your life that are important, because it's like, this needs to happen by a certain time and I'm going to be alone and die alone, blah, blah, blah. It's like, instead of being afraid of dying alone and looking for the one, like, take your fear of dying alone and like that's a trigger, like, what is the treasure that can come from it? Like, let's learn and let's heal from that, so we are not afraid of dying alone. And I'm going to talk more about this later. It will all tie in. So that's like, we've seen many people with decisions, like they choose to get married, they're not in love, they're hiding their true identity, they're lying about who they are, they're staying together for the kids. Like, they decided to spend the rest of their life with that certain person, and they weren't the one to them, they weren't in love with them for a lot of reasons, like a lot of times. And that's because they chose, and that's their choice in this life. So it's like, I'm using like the extreme example to show like those people chose, and they lived with their decisions, and maybe they were happy or maybe they were unhappy. More likely than not they were unhappy, but it's like that was their decision, and they didn't like burn in a fiery hell for like not finding the one, you know. And we see people who think this is the one and then they get divorced, and before it was like a big thing, and now it's like, okay, yeah, I tried and I thought that they were, and they weren't, you know. So going into problems with twin flames for me is that I think I already kind of covered this, actually. I'm reading my notes. That it's hot and passionate, and you get too caught up into these like minuscule ideas of what true love is. And again, I'm referencing like media. I feel like for me, because my parents were definitely not like, so my parents got divorced when I was 1, so never grew up seeing that. My mom got remarried to my stepdad, and they're basically like roommates. Like they don't love each other. They have so many issues in their relationship, and they're staying together for the kids type of thing. Like they stay together out of ease, out of taking quote unquote the easier path, because it's easier to live with someone that you don't like than to go through a divorce again. For, you know, my mom already went through one divorce with my dad, and it's like staying together for the kids. So like my brother, like he can, I don't know, it's, to me, like that idea is really bad, because you grow up and your kids see like nothing of what a loving relationship should be, and sometimes they don't realize that, and then they try and mirror that when they grow up, and it's just they're looking for love in all the wrong places. um so a lot of my like upbringing, I saw examples of relationships and love was through media. Like that was the only place where I saw it. And so I grew up thinking like that's what love is. Like it's this person that's gonna make you feel like so passionate, that's gonna like sweep you off your feet, and it's so desirable at every single moment. And I just thinking about like all the rom-coms like that, and it's like that's detrimental, because then you get caught up in these like minuscule details, like, oh well, I feel kind of lukewarm towards them, or I feel like they're more like a friend, or it's not perfect like that in the movies, like I'm not turned on every single time, like they must be not the one then. And I will say, like, full transparency, that was me. This is why I'm talking about this. Like, I've been with my partner for 7, almost 8 years. In October it will be 8 years, and I thought that about him. I was like, we have the best friendship. We get along so well. I can spend any amount of time with him and not be bored. We're always having fun. We used to even work together in college, and we worked well as a team together. And when it came to the sex stuff, I was like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling turned on by him. I'm not feeling like maybe we're not compatible sexually, like all these like things. And like what happened was I turned like my issues onto him, and it was like, well, I've seen in the movies that that's not what true love is like, and so maybe we're just not compatible. And this whole time I was thinking, like, in my head, like struggling, like, do I break up with him, do I not break up with him, is it right, is it not right, blah blah blah. He ticks off all of these boxes, but he doesn't tick off all of these boxes. And it became this whole big thing, and it was a lot of pressure. What if I'm making the wrong decision, then I break up with him, and then I made a mistake and I can't go back. Like that's what this thing, like I'm speaking from experience, like these ideas, they breed that kind of like a disempowerment. And what really was the issue was it's not that I wasn't turned on by him. It's that I had a lot of sexual trauma from sexual abuse that happened in my personal life, that I didn't feel safe with any man. I didn't feel safe at all in a vulnerable, intimate environment. And it had nothing to do with him. It was about me literally not, like, my body did not feel safe enough to open up and to be with somebody. And when I realized that, it made it a lot more sense. It was like, okay, I just need to be passionate and tender with myself, and I need to like understand where I'm coming from and work on that trauma slowly and communicate with him, and so we can work through that together to heal and grow. And that has helped change like our sex life, you know? So I think that this twin flame, like the one, like it disempowers us for many reasons. And so the bottom line is like, there's no perfect relationship that's going to tick off every box at every moment. And we need to start like realizing that there is no perfect something. Like, that's not what relationships are. Like, period, point blank. That is not what it is. And the lies that the media tells you is garbage. And we need to stop believing in them and stop like teaching it to our kids. Or like, if we are going to have our kids like watch these things, like educate them about that and talk to them about that. Like, just so we're not perpetuating these negative like cycles, right? Okay, so what is a relationship? Like, what in my psychic experience, in my intuitive experience as a healer, like what even is a relationship if it's not those things that we're taught? Like, all that is garbage, throw it out the window. Like, what is a relationship, right? So a relationship, platonic or romantic, is simply a mirror. It is human connection that mirrors things for you. And what I mean by this is, the purpose of a relationship is not to find the one. We need to take that idea and throw it out the window. The purpose of every relationship is to mirror something in our life that we need to work on, to realize, to learn from, or to heal from. So, this is why it can be platonic or not platonic. Because we have friends, and we, like, examples would be like, I'm friends with a bunch of really awesome entrepreneur witches online, and they inspire me to push and to be a better business owner. So that's what the most basic internet friendship relationship is like, these people are there to mirror to me, like, I think all these witches are like so powerful, so potent, so magical, so authentic. And that's because that's how I feel about myself, or I want to feel about myself. And they're mirroring that for me. So the idea of a mirror is like, if we haven't already experienced something, we can't have it as a mirror. So when we're like, oh, I wish I was like this person. They're so like effortless. They're so beautiful. They're so this or that, confident. It's because they're mirroring something within us that we have that maybe we're not seeing. And so the idea is like, if you've never tasted pizza, you don't know what pizza tastes like. So how do you know what confidence is? How do you know that they're confident if you have never experienced confidence, right? And a lot of us are in denial about those things about ourselves. So these relationships mirror that for us. So that's kind of like the positive thing that they can mirror for us. And it can also be negative, like negative in the terms of like detrimental or traumatic behaviors, where like I think I talked about it before, like we get angry at other people or triggered by other people all the time. And we're like, this thing that they do, like, just fucking annoys me. And so the idea is like, they're mirroring a thing that you do about yourself that annoys you or that you need to heal from. That's where we get the idea, the saying that like they're just projecting their feelings onto you and their trauma and all that stuff onto you, and they're not realizing it. That's kind of like how relationships work. It's like, if we're not aware that relationships are mirrors for us, and we're not aware of our traumas, and we're not dealing with them or healing or tapping in or listening to them, then we just like spew them everywhere at other people as a way to mirror it. Because if I hate the way that I look, then I'm going to judge everybody else's looks. And so we don't automatically see that, but that's kind of like how mirrors work. And so that's why some relationships, it takes a long time for us to understand the mirror or to get the message. And sometimes people just miss the memo entirely, and they go through their whole life like feeling like a victim, or feeling like everybody hates them, or everybody's out to get them, because they're not realizing what other people are mirroring back to them. And the other side of the mirror is like, what energy we put out, we get back to us, right? Like we receive that energy back. Or that if you're in like the vein of like manifestation, like whatever words and energies and thoughts we put out in the world, we manifest those and then they come back to us. So the easiest one, and I can't remember if I've talked about this before, is like, I didn't feel seen and heard as a kid. So I kept saying throughout my entire childhood and college time, nobody listens to me. nobody listens to me. I have such great things to say, but nobody listens to me. And I created an environment where I surrounded myself with people who didn't listen to me, or I always felt like people didn't listen to me no matter what, even if they were listening to me. And so I had to learn that that was a mirror. And my boyfriend was actually the one who showed me that that he was like the mirror for me, to show me like, this is actually a projection that you're putting onto other people, that you're putting into your life, and it's not true, or you can change it, right? So that's what I feel the purpose of relationships are, any human connection. And so the difference between friendship, like platonic and romantic relationships for this, is like, romantic relationships are kind of like mirrors on steroids, because romantic relationships are one of the few relationships where we are completely vulnerable and intimate with a person. Like, a lot of friends we don't have sex with, which is a completely intimate and vulnerable place. A lot of friends we don't live with. A lot of friends we don't spend like 30 plus years together with, making all of our decisions with, putting our bank accounts together with, like raising children with. So romantic relationships are like really big mirrors for that, because we are kind of like magnifying ourselves in that relationship with that person. We're around them all the time, so they can see all of our traumas, our beauties, our flaws, our gifts, everything is tied in there. And the extra caveat with romantic relationships is when you think about it, the next closest relationship that we are that vulnerable with somebody is with our parents, or our caregivers, or the people who have raised us. Because as a child, you're helpless and you rely on them to help you grow up and live. And that is a huge, vulnerable, intimate relationship. That person or people are teaching you everything you need to know about the world, right? And so I do a lot of inner child healing, because I think I've said this before, like 90% of our trauma comes from our inner child, from our childhood. And you've probably seen it. If not, this is the first time you're hearing it. Congratulations. That people will say, like, if you don't heal your stuff on your own, it will come out in your relationships, in your romantic relationships. Like, your inner child will literally bring it out in your romantic relationships, because, like I said, the next closest relationship that is similar to a parental relationship is a romantic relationship, because of the vulnerability and the intimacy. So your inner child, if you don't heal stuff from your parents with them, from your upbringing, it will try and give you the opportunity to do so with your romantic relationships. It will try and attract scenarios or situations or people who, as close as possible, emulate or simulate your parents or your parental guides, and in order for you to heal. And for a lot of us, that is subconscious. We're not very aware of that. And so we're like, why do I always attract men that are like my dad and stuff like that? It's for a reason. Like, they made it into a big old meme about like daddy issues and stuff, but that's for a reason. Like, your inner child is like, we want to heal this, we want to learn this lesson and grow from it, so we're going to keep putting it in your face over and over and over until you learn it. And that's when you're repeating these cycles. So with that being said, we kind of see, I was talking about contracts in the beginning. And so in this way, when we're seeing it as like every relationship is a mirror for us, is a way for us to learn more about ourselves, to highlight things that we maybe haven't healed or were putting off, or things that we were unaware of that needed to be healed, or things that are amazing about us that we were missing, that we were not looking at and avoiding. When you look at relationships like that, it takes a lot of the pressure off. Instead of, I need to find the one, why am I wasting my time in this relationship with this person? It's like, actually every single relationship that you have teaches you something. And if we can look at relationships that way, it makes it a lot easier, and it makes it a lot better, in my opinion. Like, I would prefer that belief to, like, oh, is this the right or wrong person? It's not about right or wrong. Like I said, it's your decision. If you want to be with them, you be with them. It's not right and wrong. You're not being right and wrong. You have the power to decide what you want to do. And if we're looking at it in terms of, like, I'm learning so much from this person, I'm getting so much out of this relationship, so much value, this person is supporting me so much while I'm healing, then why would I need to leave because I'm not sure if they're the right or wrong person? I'm not wasting my time then, because it's not about the end goal. It's about the journey, the experience that we have from being with them, and how we can change as a person, and how we can help them change as a person to if they want to change, obviously, to, like, heal and be better and grow and uncover who they truly are, to, like, unlearn all of that trauma and stuff, right? That's what we're doing with each other. So I prefer to see it that way. It makes relationships a lot easier, a lot more meaningful, a lot less pressure. It gives us back our power and autonomy. And then we're not, like, freaking out, as much about them. And so in that idea, I talked about contracts. And contracts, it's like, some people believe in this, some people don't. I believe in this. So the idea is that before we incarnate, our soul has all these contracts that it makes. Like, we have a big life contract of, like, things that we're going to do in this lifetime. But every single person that we come in contact with has a contract with us. Like, we were meant to come in contact with them for any given reason. And this isn't, like, taking away your free will. Like, I don't believe in that. But it's about, like, we're supposed to meet with them for a reason, to learn a lesson, to have that something mirrored to us, right? And so we're given that opportunity, and we don't have to learn the lesson. That's what a lot of people see in this lifetime. Like, we just spend the rest of our life with that person, and we never learned that lesson to stand up for ourselves, to put ourselves first, to not settle. Or we just keep going back to that person who uses us, or who doesn't want to, like, be serious with us and just wants to, like, fool around. Like, that's maybe a lesson that we were presented via the contract, but we never learn it, right? So in that vein, it's like, we all have contracts. And when we look at relationships that way, it's not really about, like, oh, I wasted my time 5 years with this guy and we didn't get married, and now, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, 5 years of my life, I could have been looking for the one for my husband. It's like, instead of that, it's like, well, I was with this person for 5 years and we had a really meaningful relationship, and we learned a lot of things about each other. I learned a lot of things about me. I grew, I got to explore. Or maybe we had a really shitty breakup and I learned a bunch about myself in terms of what I never want to do again, and my boundaries and how strong I am. Like, there's so much different things that we can learn. And then our contract was over, and that's why I finally fulfilled the lesson that I was supposed to learn from that person. And then now it's done. Like, not every relationship needs to be for marriage. It can be for learning a certain thing, like getting to a certain point in your life. Like, there's so much more that we can get out of it, and it makes our lives and our relationships with each other human, each and every human, more meaningful, in my opinion, than just like, oh, are you gonna marry me? No. Okay, bye. Like, there's still lots of nuance and meaning in life that we can get from these. So with that being said, I wanted to circle back to the idea of us not being whole and waiting for somebody to the Mr. Right? Like, the right person to come to us. This kind of idea, like, I saw somebody on TikTok describe this in, like, a really, like, I've been getting this download to share with my clients when I do readings for like a while now, for over, like, years. And so I saw this other person on TikTok say it, but, like, way more eloquently. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been trying to tell people, but I'm just not saying it this cool. So I'm going to, like, paraphrase what they were saying. because I feel like it hit better when the way they said it than the way that I try and say it. And basically they were saying, like, if you feel like you are one half of somebody waiting to find your other half, again, this language, we hear people talk about that all the time when they speak about relationships, and it's like, language, spells are words, are spells, language is a thing. So removing that kind of language from your vocabulary, right? So we're looking for our other half, right? Our better half, like all these ideas. That's kind of like, to like the way that the lady was saying, she's like, that's shitty. Like, why would you want to believe that you're not a whole person? And also, like, why would you want to like give somebody like half a person? Like, you get into a relationship, you're like, hey, just want to let you know I'm half a person. Like, what the fuck? What does that even mean? Like, how do you even, like, we don't have like half people walking around, so how can you be half a person, right? Like, you're not whole, you're not like complete yet. Like, if this person is not the one, then you're just saying like, I'm just this weird piece that doesn't fit properly with you, and I'm trying to force it to see if it works. Like, that's so unappetizing to me. Like, I wouldn't want to be with somebody who has that belief of like, I'm not all I can be, I'm not good enough yet, I'm not my full potential, like, and like selling it in that way, like straight out the gate. Like, there's a difference between like, I want to be that, I'm working towards that, like I'm trying to do that, then like, I'm just waiting for that person to solve all my problems, right? And in that kind of idea, then we're not thinking about what I always tell my clients, and this is the part that most of them are not ready to hear. Like, they will come to me with a love question, like, should I get back with my ex? Should I reach out to that crush again? Like, should I stay? Is my marriage gonna succeed or fail? Like, am I worthy of being with this person? Like, they cheated on me, should I take them back? Like, all of these things, like, people come to me as a psychic for all of these questions, and like, they're probably not ready to hear this, or some of them are, thank God. But it's like, you're looking for someone to like give you the answer, right, to solve all your problems, which is the same idea as I'm looking for the one, right? And so they come to me to try and give them, oh, this is the right answer, just pick this right answer and everything will work out for you. When in reality, it's like their team, their spirit team, their cosmic team or ancestors have sent them there so that they can hear this lesson reflected back to them that they need to learn. Because in reality, it's not about, oh, should I do this or should I do that? It's like, it's your decision. Only you can make that decision based off of what you want. I can't tell you, oh, this is going to be the best, like the right answer, no questions asked. But I can show you, if you choose this is what's going to happen, and if you choose that, that's what's going to happen, and you make the decision. But what they bring me, what their guides bring them to me for, is like to highlight, usually it's like a childhood trauma pattern that's being brought to light, or like a generational, like ancestral pattern that they're like living out over and over and over again to break. That's more so what I tell people, is like, when will I find love? Will I be single forever? Like, a lot of people come to me for that. And I'll tell them, like, you shouldn't be looking for the one. You shouldn't be waiting for the one. Like, what are you doing while you're waiting? It's about, how can I spend my time becoming a better lover? Like, I wouldn't want someone who's like waiting around for me to come to them to solve all their problems. Like, I don't want to be somebody's mom. Like, I don't want to have to heal them and to fix them and do all, no, thank you, right? Like, the idea is like, while I'm by myself or dating around or whatever, I should be working on me. Like, what can I do to be a better lover? What can I do to be a better partner? What can I do to be a better person? And I'm not saying this in terms of like, you're bad now, but it's like, how can I heal and be the true me more? How can I remove these like triggers and traumas, and so they're not gonna consistently come up in my next relationship, so I'm not just repeating the same exact pattern over and over and thinking it's just not the right person, then it's clearly not me, it's somebody else, like, if it's happening over and over again, it's probably you. Like, you're the common denominator in the relationship, not these different people. So I always try and tell this to people, and I feel like it's hard for people to hear it. And it's really about that. Like, every relationship is a mirror so that we can see these things and learn from them and not keep repeating them. And it's our kind of like our duty to be that, like, dedicated or motivated to want to heal that, because I just lost my train of thought. Oh my God. I was going to say something really profound. No, dang it. Oh, like, I feel like it's really selfish to say, like, I'm just waiting for the right person to come along, instead of like, I'm gonna work on me and find ways to be a better lover and be a better partner, so when the next person comes around, like, I can have a better experience with them, I can treat them better, I can be treated better, right? Like, this, it's like really selfish to think about, like, oh, I'm just going to wait for this right person to come along, and I don't need to do anything, like, to rely on the other person to have to fix those things or have to put up with those things or whatever it is, right? And the other thing is, like, the same as what we were talking about before, like, energy. I always tell this to people. It's like how I was saying, like, if you keep putting out that energy, you're going to receive it back. It's the same for love and relationships. And I feel like people don't recognize that it's like, if you're not working on your trauma and stuff that's directly related to relationships or sex or sexuality or pleasure and all that stuff, then the energy you're putting out is going to be whack. Like, and like, I'm not saying this to insult you, like, this is how I was putting out whack ass energy. Like, I was like afraid of commitment, I was like afraid of intimacy and being vulnerable and all this stuff, and it's like that's the energy that I'm putting out in the world, and so I'm gonna attract people like that, like, you're like attracts like. So if I'm attracting people that are like shitty partners, that are lying to me, that are cheating on me, I'm not saying like there's something wrong with you, like, I don't want you to think like if somebody cheated on you, you did something wrong, but it's like, if I change my energy, if I'm working on my stuff consistently, I'm those types of people are no longer going to align with my energy, and they're just not going to be in my reality. They're not going to be in my purview. And you find this, like, a lot of people when they go through their spiritual awakening, like, those friends that they had for long periods of time, like, they just stop showing up, and you're like, what happened to them? And it's like, because your energy was changing, and the people you vibe with and the frequency that you're attracting is changing, and that pertains to your relationships too. Like, you're gonna be in a different class of like frequency of energy, and you're gonna be more surrounded by those types of people and attract those types of people. And the one caveat with that is, if you still haven't learned the lesson and you're being tested, you might still attract the older person from before. And that's kind of like a test. And also, when your energy is real nice, freaking like energy vampires and narcissists and stuff are going to be attracted to you too, because they're like, what is this delicious energy? I'm going to come feed off you. And they might not even be conscious of that. But that's like not as common. Or like, I feel like really spiritual people or really powerful, like intuitive people have that a lot. I'm not sure if like regular people, I don't know. It depends like how far you are in your spiritual awakening for that. That's something to ponder. But I just wanted to say that it's like, that's what I tell people when they come to me. Like, well, instead of focusing on finding that person, how about, like, I see that this is a pattern that you've been going through over and over with your relationship since you started like dating. They're like, yeah, that's totally on the money. And I'm like, okay, so why don't we, like, find out what the root of that is and like heal from that, and then we won't be attracting the same people who keep doing that. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, like, I think we're taught to believe like it's either right or wrong, and it's like, oh, something bad happened, oh, this same disastrous ending to our relationship keeps happening, oh, must be the other person, it's not right for me. And it's like, okay, yes, they weren't right for you because you were attracting people to learn that certain experience. It's like they were right for you in that moment. They were the right place, right time for you to learn that lesson. And if you don't, then you're going to get another one just the same until you learn the lesson. And then if you learn the lesson, then it's like, yeah, they're not right for you anymore. You're on to a new lesson. Your energy is different. The things you're attracting are different. So that's how I really see it, is like everything is a mirror. Patterns and cycles are real and trauma, and we should be working on healing those instead of searching for a 6'2" tall blonde man with abs. Like, that doesn't really matter. Honestly, it really doesn't. What we should be focusing on is like, how can I be a better partner, and how can I like be at the top of my game, so that when the person comes along, that I'm like fucking ready for this. Like, I'm like not afraid to get into this commitment. I'm like communicating all my needs, and you're definitely going to attract. It's kind of like that weird like catch 22 thing. It's like there's no the one, but it's like the more you work on yourself, then the more you're going to attract better people, quote unquote, that are closer to your one, you know? So it's a weird theory. And like I said, everybody has contracts. Like, I didn't meet my partner when I was fucking A1 working through all this shit. Like, I hadn't even gone through my spiritual awakening when I met him, and I was acting out of my trauma. I was really toxic. I did some shitty things. And that's why we have this idea of like the contracts. Like, we were contractually, I really feel like he's one of like my soulmate people. So it's like he's part of my soul group. So like we were clearly meant to like meet in this lifetime. And that's kind of like what our relationship is. Like, he is a huge mirror for me. He has taught me so many lessons, or like kind of like shown me to myself so many lessons, and I for him. And that's kind of like why I met him when I was in like this weird place, and he was also in a weird place. And so it's like maybe our energies were like that, but it turned out that we were meant to push each other to be better. And so that's why it's like important to be open to all of these possibilities, because I wasn't the one quote unquote material, and neither was he, but it's like we're learning and growing, and we still have more to do. So that's why we haven't learned and grew out of it, out of each other, you know, like, oh, I learned my lesson, I'm on to the next person because this didn't work out. It's like, this is where we're at. We're like helping each other still, you know. And that's something that's the part of soulmates that I do love and believe, is that there can be people who are there contractually for long periods of time, you know, like the person you marry, the person you're with, your lifelong friend, and they're going to keep helping you learn and grow no matter what. So that's all I have to say about that. And if this is hard for you to hear or triggering, like, this is definitely something to maybe journal about, to meditate on, to converse with your guides, maybe get a reading, if you like want more clarity on that, and be gentle with yourself. Like, this is a lot for people to hear, because relationships are really triggering for many reasons for a lot of people. And like I discussed, there's a lot of pressure put on these types of things. So it can be a lot to take in and be like, wow, okay, all right. Ooh, like, I could see me doing that. Ooh, I see myself doing that. And that's why I speak on this, because I was like that. And I look back, and for a long period of time, it was really hard for me to look back at that and admit, like, I was really like fucked up. Like, I was not treating my partner with the respect that he deserved. And like, I hurt his feelings. Like, I was the cause of pain for him. But he was like, yo, I'm still here. Like, I want to help you through this. And like, that is not something that everybody will do for you, you know? So that's why we need to like work on our shit and not be like relying on somebody else to do that. Because, you know, I'm not saying he was the one who did it, but I'm just saying like not everybody's going to be there. They're going to be like, oh, you mistreated me, I'm out. You know, like that's people's, like, that's how I am now. Like, my boundaries are straight up like that. Like, if you mistreat me, I'm out, because I've done all this work and I'm like, I'm not putting up with that stuff anymore, you know? So yeah, take what you will, take what resonates. As always, like, if you don't believe in soulmates, that's cool. If you I will say though, if I do say the stuff about the relationships and cycles and inner child and healing and stuff like that, and you're like, I don't want to believe in that, maybe before you decide you don't want to believe in that part, take a step back and ask yourself, like, do I not want to believe in this because I'm being triggered and I just don't want to work on that? Or is it truly like, this does not resonate with me at all? So maybe take that step first. And until next time, I'm really excited to keep doing these podcast episodes and to keep connecting with you all. Thank you, everyone who has been listening and who has been posting. I love when you post and tag at Witchy and Weird Pod on Instagram. We're on Twitter, and we have our Patreon set up. So if you go to our Instagram, we have like our cute little like website page. If you're interested in supporting me and working with me more, there's different tiers on the Patreon. And when we get more patrons in the first level tier, I'll be releasing some merch, which will be really cool. And yeah, I think that's it. I mean, on my personal page, I launched a really cool Classic Monsters collection of witchy apothecary products that I make by hand. And I'm going to be releasing a really cool like energetic protection, hygiene, learning how to empower yourself and master your energy to like connect more with your intuition and with the spirit realm and to protect your energy and set boundaries and stuff. I'm doing like a really cool workshop on September 10th. So if you follow me on my personal Instagram, you will find more information about that. I'm really shitty at sign-offs. I just say a lot. I'm really sorry. So thank you for listening and have a good weekend. If you love Witchy and Weird podcasts, support us by donating monthly for as little as 99 cents at anchor.fm/witchyandweird/support. You can cancel at any time and 100% of the proceeds go directly to the pod. Or if you don't want to commit to a monthly donation, buy Amanda a coffee at ko-fi.com/wishyandweird to help fuel them while they record, edit, create, and upload content for the podcast. And if you're feeling extra generous, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and tell your witchy and weird friends about us too. Bye!